Be sure to support the n.W.bro podcast by hitting the like button on this video, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/n.w.bro podcast and on Twitter, username n.w.bro podcast. Thank you for your support. Hey everybody, this is Rhett, and this is the n.w.bro Wrestling Podcast. So, if you weren't able to tell from that opening intro there, my brother Ian is not joining me tonight, kind of doing a little bit of a solo podcast. Long story short, it's been a really long week for us. We were actually out of town all day Tuesday, didn't get back until about 5 o'clock in the morning our time Wednesday morning. Spent all day Wednesday just kind of relaxing, recuperating, and then because of work and some stuff going on that we didn't see coming, we weren't able to record our podcast on the usual day of Thursday. So this is Friday, May 5th, Revenge of the 5th. Sorry, a little bit of a nerd reference there. And I'm a nerd, so I didn't mean that like derogatory or nothing like that. I'm a huge nerd, so no offense to anybody like that. But anyway, so this is Friday, May 5th, recording this podcast. Because Ian's at work, I'm having to do it by myself this time around, but we did not want to go a full week, especially just starting this podcast. We didn't want to go a full week or go a week at all without doing an episode. And there's a lot to discuss this week. On this episode, I'm going to be talking to you guys about New Japan. They had a pay-per-view this past Sunday. A pretty big development happened right at the end of it. We're going to talk about Payback. Payback pay-per-view was this. I got that backwards. Payback's pay-per-view was this last Sunday. The New Japan show was Tuesday night, I think it was, earlier in the week. Anyway, New Japan, Payback. Of course, we got Raw and Smackdown. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer. Because we were out of town on Tuesday, I actually did not get to see any of Smackdown other than what I went back and watched on YouTube and read up on the results and stuff. I'm still going to go through the results and kind of talk about it as much as I can. This might be kind of a condensed episode. I may not go as far in depth with things as I usually would, mainly because Ian's not here to talk to me about it. But we're still going to run through all the stuff, and I'm going to give you guys my opinions on everything, and we're going to knock out this episode, just me and you. So just bear with me. Like I said, solo podcast, but we'll see how this goes. So let's go ahead and kick things off with New Japan. They had a pay-per-view, as I said, I think on Tuesday night. What was the name of this pay-per-view? It was I'm not even going to try to butcher that. Hold on, let me look this up. Yes, okay, Wrestling Dantaku. I probably butchered that name. But anyway, that was the newest pay-per-view that New Japan just had a few days ago. Not really going to discuss much about this, including the results or nothing like that. The one thing I do want to touch on, though, is that the main event saw your IWGP Heavyweight Champion Okada face off against Bad Luck Fale, part of the Bullet Club. I think he's kind of the second-hand man to Kenny Omega. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure he's called like the underboss or something like that. So, you know, that he's pretty high-ranking member of Bullet Club, and they faced off for the IWGP Championship, in which case Okada actually retained. I didn't actually get to see this match. I saw a few highlights. It looked like it was a pretty decent match. Looked like Fale took about 3 Rainmakers before he finally went down, so, you know, as expected, he put up a pretty good fight for Okada, but Okada came out on top. Didn't really have any concern that Okada was going to drop the championship to Fale, but it's what took place after the match that is definitely worth noting. After the match, Okada got on the microphone and called out Bullet Club leader Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega came out, they had a little bit of a face-off, and Okada raised the championship, pretty much indicating that he's ready for the rematch. He's ready to take on the leader of the Bullet Club and put them to rest once and for all. So it's more or less confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know when it's taking place, but we will get Okada versus Omega Part 2, which will be the rematch from their phenomenal match they had at Wrestle Kingdom 11 earlier this year. 6-star match, best match I've seen all year, hands down. I cannot wait. I am so excited. Gotta find out when that rematch is taking place. They may have already announced it. Like I said, it's been a long week. I've been really out of the loop this week, so forgive me for that. So we'll find out more as we find it out. But yeah, I cannot wait for this match. Super, super excited about it. I know I speak for my brother Ian whenever I say he's excited for it too. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that, kind of see what's going to happen. Of course, you got the G1 Climax and some other things happening here pretty soon. So there's no telling if it's going to be at the next pay-per-view or if it might be a little ways down the road. We'll have to wait and see. But regardless, Okada versus Omega, Part 2 for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship And it might be a little bit too early to call this, but if I was going to go ahead and make a prediction on this match, I would have to say I think Omega is going to finally take it. He's going to finally win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, be the heavyweight champion, Bullet Club leader, much like AJ Styles was. I think he was a 2-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I might need to check my facts on that. But just finally cement his place as the undisputed leader of the Bullet Club. And don't forget, Adam Cole. They had a little bit of attention earlier in this year at the Honor Rising pay-per-view, I believe it was. So you might get Adam Cole versus Omega match somewhere down the line to kind of just put that rivalry to rest once and for all, because they kind of had a little bit of tension going between them. I think Adam Cole kind of thinks he's the alpha male. Omega definitely thinks he's the alpha male. So we'll kind of see what happens there. Of course, Adam Cole's contract is kind of a topic right now, so we'll have to see what he does. But if he stays for New Japan or Ring of Honor for that matter, then you would have to assume somewhere down the road this year you're going to see a match between Omega and Adam Cole. But like I said, Okada Omega Part 2 will be happening. Cannot wait. Moving on, let's talk about WWE Payback. Now, I thought from start to finish this was actually a pretty entertaining pay-per-view. For whatever reason, WWE pay-per-views, much like Payback, Battleground, just, I don't know, I don't have much hope, much faith that these are going to be just really good pay-per-views, and I don't know why that is. It's not really fair to WWE or the superstars taking part, but especially like the pay-per-view right after WrestleMania. Usually WrestleMania is such a big event, whether it's good or not, the event itself is huge, and, you know, it usually has at least one or two good matches, really good matches during the card, and they're kind of hard to top. It's kind of hard to just top WrestleMania. So I don't usually go into the pay-per-views after WrestleMania expecting a whole lot, but I'll be honest, I was really impressed with this pay-per-view. By no means the best pay-per-view I've seen, probably not even the best pay-per-view I've seen this year, really, excluding WrestleMania, but overall, from start to finish, it was a pretty good pay-per-view. We opened the show. Well, the pre-show was actually Enzo Amore and Big Cass versus Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, a.k.a. The Club. And actually, let me go ahead and get my predictions pulled up here. I can go ahead and tell you, because me and Ian did predictions on the last episode, for those of you who listened. We both picked The Club to win this match because we kind of felt like, with the Revival being hurt, that the Club would be the tag team to kind of step up and be that villainous tag team of Raw. And I mean, let's face it, Enzo and Cass continuously get beat. So, I mean, we just wasn't really expecting a whole lot from them in this particular match. Oh, I can't find the list of predictions, and the one I saved is actually on my laptop, which I don't have access to right now. So I'll try to remember this best I can, but I'm pretty sure we both picked the Club to win this match. Yeah, usually the way these things go down is Big Cass is kind of the main offensive member of the tag team between him and Enzo, and usually one thing will lead to another, and Enzo will be the one who eats the pin. He'll usually get his ass pretty much kicked the entire match, most of the match, and he'll be the one who ends the pin. They've been losing a lot of matches lately. I don't think they've had a significant push since Big Cass was in the Fatal 4-Way for the vacant Universal Championship after SummerSlam, after Finn Balor got hurt. So they picked up the win against the Club, much to our surprise. It's good to see them win, but it was a little bit confusing at the time because it's like, what did they have to gain from this? I mean, yeah, they need to win. They need a little bit of a push, but like we said, with the Revival being hurt, you felt like the Club needed to come out on top to kind of establish themselves as more of a villain heel tag team, maybe somebody for the Hardy Boys to take on later on down the road. But we would find out later in the night what WWE actually had planned. So Enzo and Cass pick up a big win here. That's good for them. Finally got a win, and against the Club no less. So it looks like the Club's still going to kind of eat a few losses here and there. They've been kind of on a little bit of a losing streak, or irrelevant streak here lately, and it looks like that's going to continue for now. But at least Enzo and Cass got a win. It was the pre-show, so take it for what it is. To actually kick off the main pay-per-view, you had Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens for the WWE United States Championship. Now, going into this match, and I'm pretty sure we said this in the predictions, this was our ironclad, just locked pick of the night. Because we know Chris Jericho is going to go on tour with Fozzy here pretty soon, and you just kind of felt like he would lose this rematch, and that would be it. He'd be written off TV. Maybe I can actually get my words right at some point tonight. But he would be written off TV and go on to the road with Fozzy, and Kevin Owens would retain the championship and go on to his next feud with whoever. But, huge surprise, Chris Jericho actually picked up the win, and as a result, is now a member of Smackdown Live on Tuesday nights. So that was a huge surprise, a good surprise. We were kind of confused how they were going to handle it, which once we heard that the championship was going to be up for grabs on SmackDown Live that next Tuesday, we kind of figured out what was going to happen. But as for Payback, this was a huge surprise. It was a good surprise. Jericho picked up his second United States Championship for the WWE, and moving on to SmackDown Live. Good match too. I thought this was actually a better match than the one they had at WrestleMania. So a lot of good spots, especially with Kevin Owens' finger grabbing a hold of the rope to break out of a submission. And the big news here, well, actually, before I get back to that, sorry, I got excited for a second. But, back at WrestleMania, he used his finger to break out of a submission. This time around, he successfully did it again. When he tried it later, Jericho got pissed off and started, kicking his finger, and it was a pretty funny spot. But the biggest news coming out of this is not the fact that Chris Jericho won, or the fact that he's the United States champion, or the fact that he's on SmackDown Live. The big news coming out of this particular match is that for the first time in probably 15 years, that's probably an exaggeration, but for the first time in a long time, someone has tapped out to the walls of Jericho. When was the last time we saw that? It may be more recently than I'm thinking, but I swear to God, I don't think I've seen anybody tap out to the walls of Jericho in at least 10 years. I might be wrong, especially a face Chris Jericho, them tap out to him. Maybe I'm wrong, but that feels like that's the first time I've seen that happen in a long time. So it's good to see the walls of Jericho get used effectively again, because it's been kind of a weak move as of late. So now it won him a championship against Kevin Owens. So good for Chris Jericho. Next up, we had Austin Aries versus Neville for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Really good match. I was actually kind of okay with the ending. And this is where Ian gets brownie points. We both said that I apologize. We both said that Austin Aries was going to win, but Ian was the only one who said that he would win by DQ. So I'll go ahead and give him that. If I get a point for that, he gets a point and a half because he actually specified how how Aries was going to win this match. And needless to say, that's exactly how it went down. It was a good match back and forth. At one point, Aries had Neville in a submission, and instead of tapping out, he just basically threw the ref behind him, grabbed a hold of the ref, and just threw him, got himself DQ'd. So it looks like this feud's going to go on for a little bit longer. But as of now, Neville is still your Cruiserweight champion. Austin Aries is the victor, but does not get the title because of disqualification. Next up, you had a tag team championship match between the Hardy Boys and Cesaro and Sheamus. Now, leading up to this match, both teams have been as respectful as possible. There's been a little bit of tension here and there between Cesaro and Jeff Hardy, and then Sheamus and Matt Hardy. But each match they've had in the last few weeks have ended with a handshake and just respect. So you have the Hardy Boys retaining. They won this match. They beat Cesaro and Sheamus. Forgive me, it's been a week since I've seen it, but I don't remember them bringing any kind of shenanigans or anything like that. I think it was just a pretty clean win. Pretty good match overall. And again, it ended with after the match was over. Oh no, it was brutal actually. Jeff Hardy lost a tooth. Matt more or less just kind of really took a beating throughout the match. The match ended with Jeff doing a blind tag, Cesaro getting the pin on Matt, not realizing that Matt's not the legal man, and Jeff hitting a swanton on top of Cesaro, who was on top of Matt. So Matt kind of just ate a little bit of a sacrifice there, but it ultimately picked up the win for the Hardy Boys. So they win. They retain their titles. Cesaro and Sheamus get up in the ring. They shake hands. They leave. They give the Hardy Boys a little bit of a chance in the spotlight. As the Hardy Boys are celebrating, Cesaro and Sheamus come back to the ring. Heel turn alert. They attack both Matt and Jeff, continue to just beat the shit out of them, and ultimately turned heel. And that goes back to what I was talking about with the club losing early in the night. Now we know that Cesaro and Sheamus is our villain heel tag team of Raw. Looks like this feud's going to go on a little bit longer between Cesaro and Sheamus and the Hardy Boys. And you have to wonder if this is actually going to kind of lead into the Hardy Boys doing the broken gimmick, especially with news that WWE has now purchased or are in the act of purchasing the broken gimmick. So kind of have to wait and see how this would go, which we got a little bit of an idea the next night on Raw, but I'll get to that momentarily. After that, another surprise of the night. You had Alexa Bliss defeating Bayley for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. Now, I thought Bayley was going to retain. I felt like it was a little bit too early for Alexa Bliss to win that championship. I thought maybe she might win in a rematch down the road, but really good match. Alexa Bliss is fantastic. She knows how to promo. She knows how to do good mic work. She's a good wrestler. And of course, I've talked about Bayley before. I love them both. These are probably my two favorite women wrestlers in the WWE right now. Actually, there's no probably to it. They're definitely my two favorite wrestlers in the WWE right now. And much to my surprise, and I believe Ian's surprised too, actually, Ian had Alexa Bliss picked to win this. So he gets another point for that. So yeah, Alexa Bliss picked up the win. She is your new WWE Raw Women's Champion. There was a cool little spot here where Bayley actually had the pin on Alexa, and when Alexa pushed Bayley off, it threw her basically shoulder first, but they acted like it was head first into the turnbuckle, which played a part in her kind of being weakened for the rest of the match. And ultimately, Alexa Bliss won with a DDT. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. So yes, new Women's Champion. Now, next up, right after this, it's the much anticipated match that everyone's been talking about. It's the House of Horrors match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Now, the WWE Championship is not on the line. I repeat, it was not on the line. Now, we thought this would be a rematch and that Bray Wyatt would get buried and he would lose and not win the championship and stay on Raw and Randy Orton stay on SmackDown, all that good stuff. But no, they basically confirmed about a week leading into Payback that the championship was not on the line. This was just going to be a 1 versus 1. Now, the rules to this match, this was the stupidest, most entertaining thing I've seen in a while in WWE. It was by no means a good match or a good segment / match, whatever you want to identify it as. But it was, in my opinion, like, far and away better than their shit show of a match they had at WrestleMania. So at least this was actually kind of entertaining, and there was really no point where I was confused. I mean, I was able to kind of continue just knowing what was going on, keep up with it better than I did with the match at WrestleMania, because the match at WrestleMania was weird with all the projections and shit, and I don't know what the fuck that was all about. So at least this was kind of entertaining. I mean, it kept my interest, whether it was good or not. It could be terrible, but as long as it's entertaining, I mean, it's World Wrestling Entertainment, so I guess I succeed there? I don't know. Anyway, the way this match works out is the match starts at this just random house, which is for sale, by the way. If you go online, you can actually find this house for sale. But anyway, it starts at this random house, kind of run down a little bit. The inside of the house is decorated to look all creepy. In one room, you got baby dolls all hanging from the roof. In another room, you got like some kind of like pagan-looking structure or some denomination or religion. I might have messed that up. But anyway, the whole house was decorated to look weird. Kind of looked like something out of Resident Evil 7. Well, maybe not nearly to that extent, but you get the picture. So Randy Orton pulls up to the house, and well, before I get onto that, let me go back to the rules. So the match starts off at the house, and then the two contestants have to make it back to the arena, to the ring, and the match has to conclude there via either pinfall or submission. So, whatever. Let's just roll with it. So Randy Orton pulls up to the house in a limo. He is wearing black pants, no shirt, got his elbow pads on, gets out, and it's nighttime, by the way. This is something important to note because this pay-per-view took place in San Jose, California. So when he pulls up to the house, it's nighttime. But in reality, at the time of the show, when he got to the house and they're acting like this whole thing's live, it's still broad daylight where the arena's at. And by the time they get back to the arena after this whole thing's said and done, it's still daylight. Like, people from the show have reported saying that Bray Wyatt, once they got back to the ring to finish up the match, you could look outside and still see daylight. Whereas it was pitch dark. It was like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning looking whenever this particular segment happened. So obviously this was pre-recorded. But anyway, Orton pulls up to the house, gets out, kind of looks around, some freaky shit's happening, got a tractor kind of just moving on its own. He walks to the house, gets attacked by Bray Wyatt. They have a fight going throughout the entire house. The whole thing ends with Bray Wyatt basically pushing a refrigerator over onto Randy, squashing him, kills him. He's just dead. He hops back in the limo that Randy pulled up in and said, "Driver, take me to the arena." And he heads to the arena. So while they're waiting for him to get back to the arena, they just go ahead and do the next match. So the official time for this match was 17 minutes and 10 seconds, but that doesn't include the part in between where you're waiting on Bray Wyatt to get back to the arena. So they move on to the next match, which is Seth Rollins versus Samoa Joe. Not a whole lot to say here. I thought Samoa Joe would win this match since it was his pay-per-view debut, and plus it would help kind of carry on this feud with Seth Rollins. But no, Seth Rollins wins clean. So not a whole lot to say about that. We'll talk more about that as we talk about Raw. Then we come back. Bray Wyatt has finally showed back up to the arena. He's all kind of wobbly, kind of woozy from his from his fight with Randy Orton back at the House of Horrors. And he makes his way to the ring. Of course, he comes out to his entrance. All the lights are off. Got the fireflies in the crowd. He's got his lantern. Works his way to the ring. And when he gets to the ring and he's in the ring, the lights come back on and Orton's already there. He's standing behind him with a chair and just proceeds to start beating the shit out of him with his chair. How did Randy Orton get there before Bray Wyatt? Fuck if I know. He used to be a member of the Wyatt family. Maybe he used his teleportation powers, which, if that was the case, why didn't Bray Wyatt use it? Fuck it. It's entertainment television. Just roll with it. So anyway, Randy Orton's beating the shit out of Bray Wyatt with a chair. In comes Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers, formerly known as the Bollywood Boys, but they're calling them the Singh brothers now. They interfere. Of course, Jinder still got the championship that he stole from SmackDown Live, stole from Randy on SmackDown. Hits Randy with the championship. Gives Bray just enough time to hit Randy with the Strapagale. Bray pins him 1, 2, 3, picks up the win. So Bray Wyatt finally defeats Randy Orton. Hopefully, this shit feud is finally just over with. I mean, by all intents and purposes, it should be, especially after what we saw the next night on Raw. So, finally, that chapter of our lives is over. We don't have to worry about Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton ever again, or at least not for now. Maybe if they do it again in the future, it will be much better than the shit they put on TV for the past 2 or 3 months. So after that, we get our main event of Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. Now, Roman Reigns is trying to play off like he's pretty hurt from his savage attack from Braun Strowman a couple weeks ago on Raw. He comes out, he's got his shoulder, his arm all taped up. He looks like, I mean, one arm, he's not, the arm that's taped up, he's not even like, he's barely moving throughout the match for the most part. And it's just a powerhouse match like you would expect it to be between these two guys, but Braun Strowman picks up the win. He pins Roman Reigns for the 1, 2, 3. After the match is over with, he gets a steel chair, starts beating the shit out of Roman a little bit more, to the point that Roman's like coughing up blood. His face is all bloodied up. Braun goes to the back. Roman, get the medics out there. They're trying to help him out and get him up on his feet. He, with very little assistance from the medics, kind of makes it back to the back of the arena as the show closes. Now, we kind of got this continued on Raw Talk, which took place right after the pay-per-view of Payback of Roman Reigns still trying to make his way through the back of the arena. At one point, he makes it to an ambulance, and the ambulance doors are open, and he's kind of propping himself up against the inside of one of the doors when all of a sudden you hear Braun, just like it was on Raw a few weeks ago, yell out, "I'm not finished with you," and he just comes charging at Roman Reigns. Roman moves out of the way and Braun just runs through the door, knocks the door off its hinges and into like a big old stack of boxes, and that he's just down and out evidently. I don't know what was in those boxes that just fucked him up so bad. I'm sure they're trying to act like the door running through it fucked him up. But yeah, they act like that both men are just down, like Roman gets out of the way, but he's still hurt from the match. Braun goes to the door, hits the boxes. It was actually pretty hilarious and great, honestly. It was a good little segment. So, that's Payback. Now I know going through all that, some of that sounded pretty ridiculous and kind of stupid, especially like the House of Horrors match, but like I said, it was just entertaining. It was an entertaining pay-per-view, and I was impressed with it. And we'll see what Raw can do in their next pay-per-view of Great Balls of Fire, which is just has Vince McMahon just written all over it. That's such a terrible pay-per-view name, but I'm going to hold off on that, talk about that more with Ian, maybe when it gets closer to time, for the much anticipated pay-per-view of Great Balls of Fire. So, that's your Payback. That now moves us into Monday Night Raw. I did get to watch Monday Night Raw, because like I said, we weren't out of town until Tuesday, so I did get to watch Raw. The show opens with Alexa Bliss coming out, basically talking about how she beat Bayley for the championship. Of course, all the women wrestlers for the Monday Night Raw are in the ring as she's doing this. Kind of a championship coronation for Alexa Bliss. And she's talking about how, everyone's comes out there and refers to himself as the Queen. Well, she's got news for everybody. The Queen is dead. And to long live Alexa Bliss, the one and only goddess of the WWE. And she did note that with her picking up the Raw Women's Championship, she is now the first woman wrestler to actually hold the SmackDown and Raw Women's Championship. So that's pretty interesting. It's not something I really considered the night of Payback, but when she mentioned it on Monday Night Raw, yeah, that's a good little footnote for her. So anyway, she's out there gloating, kind of boasting herself. This ultimately leads into a 3-on-3. No, I'm sorry, it's a 4-on-4 women's tag team match between Bayley, Sasha Banks, Dana Brooke, Mickie James versus Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Emma. Not a bad way to kick off. I mean, the segment was a good way to kick off Raw. The match, not too bad, but I mean, ultimately you had the heel team of Alexa Bliss, Jax, Fox, and Emma pick up the win. So Bayley is now back-to-back losses. She lost in her hometown of San Jose, and then loses the next night on Raw. After that, you have Enzo Amore in singles action against Luke Gallows. This is maybe a little bit of payback from the night before because Luke Gallows picked up this win. Not a big surprise. Enzo's still looking weak, and I hate that. I love Enzo Amore, but he needs a little confidence. I mean, he's got confidence. I've said this before. It's just momentum he doesn't have because he keeps losing. He is the weak link between Enzo and Cass. I mean, Cass, I can see them breaking up now and Cass going on and having pretty good single success, but Amare would just get destroyed the whole time. And I don't know. I don't, it hurts to see this because I really like Enzo and I want to see him do good. And maybe one day if they do break up, maybe see him do good in the Cruiserweight division or something. But right now, it's just one loss after another for him. And if it wasn't for Cass, he wouldn't, I don't know. He wouldn't be doing too well if Cass wasn't with him. So after that, you have Seth Rollins coming out to address what is next for Seth Rollins. Of course, he comes out saying that he's beat Triple H at WrestleMania. He beat Samoa Joe at Payback. The only thing that's left for him is to claim the Universal title. So he wants the Beast. He wants Brock Lesnar. He gets interrupted by Finn Balor, who comes out and says, "Look, I understand where you're coming from, and I respect you, but that title was mine first, and I never lost it. I got hurt and had to relinquish it. I never lost the title. So there's a line for the Universal title, and it starts with me. So, get in line." So he's making a case, which is a great point, because that's a point I made before he even came back, is that if he came back, shouldn't he have an automatic rematch for the title since he had to vacate it and he didn't actually lose the title? I know back during the Royal Rumble, people were talking about him being a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble, and I was completely opposed to that. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. He shouldn't have to be in the Royal Rumble to earn a title shot. He should just have a title shot when he gets back because he had to relinquish it due to injury. So, and maybe I need to go back and look up at the history for this happening. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's been people who relinquished the title before who got a rematch when they got back. And I'm pretty sure there's people who didn't. But in my opinion, you lost it because of injury. You should have a chance to fight for it when you get back. But, hey, I'm not creative. I don't work for creative for WWE. So, yeah, what I say doesn't really matter a whole lot. But they get interrupted by The Miz, who comes out and basically just disregards the Universal title, starts talking about the Intercontinental Championship and how he was the best Intercontinental Championship champion of all time, how he gave it prestige, he made it relevant again, and Dean Ambrose is just a fool and just making it look stupid. Of course, Ambrose comes out to interrupt all of them, gets on the phone with Kurt Angle middle of the ring, and basically gets a match set up for the end of the night to determine a number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship between Miz, Balor, and Seth Rollins. So that gets set up, and we have that as our main event at the end of the night. After that, we get a cruiserweight match of Tony Nese, Brian Kendrick, Noam Dar, and Rich Swann, Akira Tozawa, and gentleman Jack Gallagher. I'm going to be honest with you, I did not watch this match. I think this is during one of the times when I stepped away to take care of my son. What was this, was this like a number one contenders match? What was this? No, it was a tag team match. Okay, well, my notes have this written. It doesn't have one versus the other. It just has them all listed. So I didn't know if it was like just a six-pack challenge or what this was. But it looks like that Rich Swann, Tozawa, and Gallagher picked up the win. Again, I didn't see this match. I've said it before. Cruiserweights, Raw needs to do away with the cruiserweight matches. They have their own show. They need to do something with it as far as keeping it as their own show. But Raw needs to be brought back down to 2 hours, and getting rid of the cruiserweight matches is a great way to do that. Not that the cruiserweight matches are bad. Don't misunderstand me. I like the cruiserweight matches, but it's such a drag for them to just redo the ropes, redo the canvas, all that stuff just for cruiserweight matches. Just basically change the aesthetic of the show just for the cruiserweight. I would actually be more appreciative of it if it was just a seamless part of Monday Night Raw, where they just wrestled in the same ring as everybody else does on Monday Night Raw, and then they still have their own show. I'd be more okay with that, but with all this extra work, all the stuff it does, I feel like it just kind of takes momentum out of the crowd, especially if you're a live crowd. I haven't seen this in person, so I can't speak from experience, but in my opinion, if I was watching this live, it feels like it would kind of take some of the momentum some of the wind out of my sails if, I'm watching the ring crew come out and basically redo the ring for the cruiserweight match and then have to turn it back to normal for Monday Night Raw. So, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. But anyway, moving on. You have Sheamus and Cesaro. They come out to explain their actions from last night, and they make some pretty good points. They come out and basically say that they were well in line to win the Raw Cruiserweight Championship at WrestleMania, and last minute, the Hardy Boys show up, and they win the championships. It was a little bit unfair because the Hardy Boys hadn't been announced to be a part of this match or nothing like that. They just show up all of the day of WrestleMania and win the titles, of course, decreasing the chances of the other teams involved to win the titles. And basically they just talk about how it's good to be heel. How they've been basically putting on this face for the past few weeks to be respectful, and they hated it, and now they're just set free because they just let their true self show, and they're loving it. So then the Hardy Boys come out to the stage, and they say, everyone's wondering what our reaction is to what you guys did last night, and me and my brother Jeff, we only have one response. And they do a quick delete motion with their hands, where they, you know what it looks like. You guys know what it looks like with the delete, where with your hand and your arm. Anyway, they just both do that and run out to the ring to take on Cesaro and Sheamus. Of course, Sheamus and Cesaro just leave the ring and nothing actually happens. But Jeff didn't say anything, but Matt, he wasn't in his broken gimmick, but he was using some of the terminology that he would use in his broken character and a little bit with the accent. And of course with the delete motion that they did, it does seem like they're starting to kind of inch a little bit closer to that broken gimmick. So not a whole lot came out of the Raw after. I was kind of hoping that they would just come out full broken gimmick, or really kind of hint towards it, like after the beating they took the night before, that, maybe they were broken, or Sheamus and Cesaro broke them, or something cheesy like that. But either way, leading to the broken gimmick. Of course, that's not what happened, but they did strongly hint towards it, which is more than what we've really got up to this point. So kind of really anxious to see what happens from this point forward. It does look like they are starting to inch closer to the broken gimmick for Matt and Jeff. So after that, there's a little bit of a backstage segment where Heath Slater is actually giving Apollo some advice about being a dad, because Apollo is expecting a kid, and Heath Slater, as you know, has like 6 or 7 kids according to his character on TV. Titus O'Neil sees what's going on, kind of politely asks Heath Slater, and Rhino's with him, to leave. Tells Cruz, hey man, you got a match with Heath Slater coming up. They're the enemy. Don't be going to them for advice. Come to me. This is what I'm here for. And this is building up that Titus brand relationship between Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews that me and Ian's been really just dying to see. So after that's over with, you then have the one-on-one match between Heath Slater and Apollo Crews. Not a very long match, rather. It was actually kind of a quick match, and Apollo Crews picks up the win. Of course, Titus O'Neil gets back in the ring to celebrate with him, goes for a selfie, and Rhino photobombs it. So a little bit of a funny moment there. But again, we're getting the Apollo Crews, Titus O'Neil, Titus brand build up, and I'm probably more excited for it than I should be. But hey, I'm looking forward to it. Both of these guys need something to do, and it looks like they finally have a pretty decent storyline and TV time, so good for both of them. After that, you get some medical updates on Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. I can't remember exactly what they said was wrong with either of them, but I know what happened. I'm sorry. Kurt Angle came out to talk about it. Of course, he gets interrupted by Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt's, it's kind of a cool moment because Bray acknowledges the fact that they haven't had the chance to actually meet each other yet. So they introduce each other, or Bray introduces himself, and they shake hands, and then Bray basically goes on to tell Kurt Angle that this is his his baby, this is his operation and whatnot. And Kurt reminds him, says, as the general manager, this is my show. And Bray Wyatt says, this may be your show, but this is my world. So, just kind of shows up to tell Angle who he is and why he's there, and to not basically be in his way. Either you're with him or against him, that type of thing. So, and as far as, so Braun Strowman had a torn rotator cuff, and I'm pretty sure Roman Reigns just re-injured all the same injuries he had from before. So Kurt did talk about that just a little bit. After that, you have a cruiserweight match between Austin Aries and TJP. So they didn't refer to TJ Perkins as TJ Perkins this episode. They're now calling him TJP. So that's something worth noting. So I don't know if I like that or not, but hey, he's a heel now. And I've said before, you need kind of a fresh new, just not necessarily gimmick, but just a fresh new image or whatever to kind of go along with the heel persona. So we'll see how TJP, I don't know how I feel about that right now, but I could see it kind of growing on me. I don't really love it, but I don't hate it either. But, singles action between Austin Aries, TJP, and Austin Aries actually wins via submission. So, I think after that, let's see here. After the match, TJP kind of attacks Austin a little bit, kind of beats up on him after the match, and then I think he dabs with the crowd, or dabs by the crowd to kind of irritate him there for a little bit. After that, there's a few segments leading up to the number one contenders match for at the end of the night between Dean Ambrose and the three people involved, like individually, of him basically acting like backstage interviewer and kind of asking them some questions. They're okay. It's not really much of anything worth talking about. But ultimately, that leads into. Sorry, getting ahead of myself here. You didn't have another backstage segment of the Golden Truth talking to Kurt Angle about how they want a title match for the Raw Tag Team Championships, and Kurt Angle pretty much pushed together a tag team turmoil match for the next week to determine a number one contender for the Raw Tag Team Champions. So we'll see how that works out, although obviously Sheamus and Cesaro are not done with their feud yet, so we'll see what they do there. So that leads us to our main event, number one contenders match for the Intercontinental title, Finn Balor versus Miz versus Seth Rollins. I actually really liked this match, and I'll tell you what I liked the most about it, is that because of the way this match went down, all three men involved now have storylines. The match saw Miz pick up the win after interference from Samoa Joe, who attacked Seth Rollins and took him out, and then Bray Wyatt, who attacked Finn Balor. Looks like they're going back to the Finn Balor-Bray Wyatt feud. Me and Ian were so confused last week when we talked about this, like, what the hell are they doing? Because they teased this feud a few weeks ago, and then nothing's really been said or done about it since then, so it's like they just throw it to the wayside. Although since Bray Wyatt actually won against Randy Orton at Payback, I am now super on board with this feud, because I was afraid when we thought that the Orton-Bray Wyatt match at Payback was for the title, I was afraid that Wyatt was just going to eat one loss after another, because, I don't see him losing to Finn Balor in this feud. It's Finn Balor's first big feud on Monday Night Raw, if you don't include his brief feud with Seth Rollins leading up to SummerSlam. But I feel like Finn Balor will win this feud, but I'm more okay with it now since Bray Wyatt did pick up a win at Payback. So, yes, after both Samoa Joe and Bray Wyatt interfered with the match, that gave The Miz a chance to pick up the pin on Finn Balor and become your new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, I did have a problem with this a couple weeks ago, talking about how this felt like a recycled Smackdown feud. I still have a bit of a problem with that, but at least they threw in some Raw superstars into the mix before it was determined to be that. They didn't just hit the ground running with two former SmackDown superstars feuding over a former SmackDown championship. They actually had Finn Balor and Seth Rollins mixed in. They had a chance for it, but they lost, and now they're split up doing their own feuds. Seth Rollins continuing his feud with Samoa Joe, and Finn Balor starting his feud with Bray Wyatt. So I'm actually really excited. There was a lot of story told in this one match, and a lot of room to grow and to expand later on because of this match. So that was your Monday Night Raw. SmackDown, you're going to have to bear with me because, like I said, I did not see SmackDown. I was out of town. I tried to record it and watch it on my DVR when I got back, but that didn't work out. So I went back and watched some stuff on YouTube, and I read up on the results, and I tried to catch up on as best I can, but I did not actually see that, so I'm probably not going to be able to talk very in depth about SmackDown, but I will do my best. So let's see here. Oh yeah, so I know the show opened up with Jericho. He's now a member of SmackDown. He shows up on SmackDown talking about how he's the U.S. champion, how he's happy to be on SmackDown. AJ Styles comes out because, he's the number one contender for the U.S. championship. So, he's talking about how he's going to face off against Chris Jericho for the U.S. title. But then Kevin Owens comes out and says, no, hold your horses. Why would he say hold your horses? Why would anybody say? Anyway, he comes out and says, no, I'm going to beat you for that title tonight because we have a rematch. And AJ Styles, you're going to face off against me for the title. So that just kind of sets up a little bit of a setup for the main event later on that night. Of course, I think Styles and Owens, they got into a little bit of a fight. Of course they did. It's wrestling. All these things end in just violence, pretty much. So you didn't have Jinder Mahal taking on Sami Zayn. Jinder Mahal picking up another win. I know a lot of people are upset with this because a lot of people love Sami Zayn and they want him to win, but he's a jobber, guys. I love Sami Zayn too. And I full on predict that he'll probably be WWE champion, if not by the end of this year, by the end of next year. So sometime within the next year and a half, I fully think he'll be WWE champion. But right now, he's just a really good wrestler who is there to make other wrestlers look good. He can wrestle great. Of course, his match with Shinsuke Nakamura back in NXT, probably match of the year of last year. So the guy can wrestle, but just be patient with him, everybody, because he keeps eating loss after loss, picking up a couple of wins here and there, but it's mostly losses. That's just going to make it that to when he finally wins a big championship, it's going to make it that much better because he's finally overcome all this, all the struggle, all the difficulty, and he's finally won the championship. So I'm asking you all just to be a little bit patient with Sami Zayn. He'll get his chance to shine, but right now, WWE has found it necessary to give Jinder Mahal the spotlight. They're really doing a good job of building him up as a legitimate threat for Randy Orton's WWE Championship. And I've said it before, I'm excited for this particular feud. I didn't think I ever would be. I never thought I'd mark out for Jinder Mahal, not in a million years. But I really enjoy what they're doing with him right now. So just let's give this a chance, see what this does, and be patient with Sami Zayn, because as long as he stays healthy and he keeps busting ass in the company, you will see him right where you want him sooner rather than later, I'm sure. So, after that, you have Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English. Of course, Aiden English is doing the singles thing now because Simon Gotch got released a few weeks ago. Ty Dillinger picks up the win. He actually debuts a new finisher in this match, which I have yet to actually see. From what I understand, it seems like it's kind of more or less the tiebreaker, but instead of kind of a little bit of a modified. I don't know. I need to go back and watch that, but I did hear that he debuted a new finisher, so I need to go back and see what that's about. And Aiden English, a little bit of a squash match, but I think Aiden English is fine where he's at right now because they're still trying to figure out what to do with him since Simon Gotch isn't on television anymore or isn't with the company anymore. But they're still giving him TV time to kind of, and this might actually help him find a bit of a voice, a bit of a gimmick. I mean, I know he's been doing like the singing thing here lately, and he's I don't know, but anyway, just give Aiden English a little bit of time as well. I think he's fine where he's at right now. I don't think he's in any kind of danger of being released, nothing like that. He's a little bit of a jobber, but I like Aiden English. I mean, he's Eddie Guerrero's son-in-law, so he can wrestle. I mean, I know he didn't know Eddie and all that, but I mean, he's Just hold on. He'll be okay. He'll be okay. Now, of course, Ty Dillinger. Who doesn't like Ty Dillinger? Perfect 10. So he picked up another win. And at least Ty's getting TV time. At least he's getting matches. It looks like we're going to have to wait until Backlash to see Shinsuke debut, which is stupid. I don't understand why he doesn't get like a couple of matches leading up to Backlash. I mean, I don't understand what they're doing with it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm looking forward to his match with Dolph Ziggler. But I didn't want to wait like a month and a half to see him fight after he debuted. that's just kind of ridiculous. But we'll get there eventually. So the next match you had up was Naomi and Charlotte versus Natalya and Carmella. Of course, this started off a bit as a bit of a handicap match because Charlotte gets attacked and is not able to make it out to the ring. But Naomi holds her own for a little while until Charlotte finally makes it out. Let's see here. Natalya and Carmella actually pick up the win, though. They start beating up on... Naomi starts beating up on Carmella, but then Natalya and Tamina get involved, and they start beating up on Naomi and Charlotte as well. Becky Lynch comes out. Now, there's a little bit of a kind of a rehash of last week's segment where, by the way, this is something I forgot to talk about. This stable of Natalya, Tamina, Carmella, and who's the fourth one? Or is it James Ellsworth? Am I getting this? Anyway, this stable's being called the Welcoming Committee right now, which is like the worst tag team stable name I've ever heard. So hopefully that doesn't stick, but that's what they were referred to all night as. So anyway, they met up with Becky Lynch earlier than that, and they said, you didn't give us an answer last week whether you're with us or against us. So are you with us or against us? I mean, let's face it, Charlotte, we've been busting ass for months to get a chance at the title, and then Charlotte just comes in out of nowhere and immediately gets a title shot. That's bullshit. And Becky says, I've never thought about it like that, and basically walks off. So after this tag team match, as the Welcoming Committee is beating up on Naomi and Charlotte, Becky Lynch comes out and appears to turn heel. Looks like she's going to join the Welcoming Committee. She shakes hands with Tamina. She shakes hands with Carmella. She shakes hands with Natalya. When she goes to... when James Ellsworth goes to shake his hand, she says, nah, and gives him a hug instead. When she gives him a hug, she throws him into the other girls and starts attacking them, levels them out. She's not heel. She's not joining up with the Welcoming Committee. Can you fucking blame her? That's a stupid, shitty name. So she's going to stay face. So it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a face team of Becky, Charlotte, and Naomi versus the Welcoming Committee. I can't take that name seriously. Fuck. So, yeah, that's where Becky Lynch lies. After that, you have Dolph Ziggler versus Sin Cara. Sin Cara making an appearance, and definitely making an appearance. Yeah, he's wearing a really stupid outfit. I almost question whether it was somebody else playing him, because he's got that tattoo. And I forget, is it Hunico playing him now, or Mystico? I forget which one's playing him at the moment. But who played him first and who plays him now? But he's got that tattoo that he on his right arm, I believe it is, when he's not wearing a shirt. So I kind of wonder if somebody else is playing him this particular night, because he had his full body, just blue, purple, ugly suit on. Anyway, squash match. Dolph Ziggler picks up the win. After that will lead us to our main event of Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens for the United States Championship. Now it all becomes clear. Now we know how they're going to write Chris Jericho off the TV. Kevin Owens picks up the win and is your new United States Championship. So there's only like a 2-day turnaround between the championship there. After the match, Owens proceeds to just beat the ever-living shit out of Jericho. At one point, he's got a steel chair wrapped around his neck, and he throws him into the turnbuckle, which is going to like really hurt his vocals for Fozzy. He's about to go on tour, so I don't know if he can sing if his throat's crushed in, but Godspeed. Hopefully he'll recover pretty well from that. But anyway, so Kevin Owens beats the shit out of Chris Jericho after winning the championship back. This is obviously going to write Jericho off of TV for a little while because he's injured. So I thought this was really well done. They surprised us at Payback by letting Jericho win, and they had a pretty good way of writing him off TV, and Kevin Owens has the championship back. So yeah, we'll see him versus AJ Styles at Backlash for the United States Championship. And that's our Smackdown. So, looking at the clock here, let's see, how long have I been running for? 48 minutes, yeah. So if this had been me and Ian, this would probably been like twice as long. But like I said, this was a solo podcast. I didn't want to not do an episode this week, because we just started, and I don't want to, like, this soon after starting, just not have an episode of our podcast. So I wanted to do something, get something going. Hopefully, if you guys stuck with me this long and listened, thank you so much for just bearing with me. Obviously, I'll be the first to admit I'm better at doing this if I have my co-host and brother with me. But like I said, I didn't want to leave you guys without anything. I didn't want to not put out an episode this week. So, but next week, everything should be back to normal. Ian should be back with me. We'll talk about Raw. We'll talk about Smackdown. And anything else that might be going on in the wide world of wrestling at the time. So, be sure to, if you're watching this on YouTube, to like, comment, and subscribe on our videos. We do post a new episode every week. And we have ideas for new content that we're going to put out pretty soon. Probably some 2K17 videos and just some other stuff we might work on later. But yeah, for right now, it's just the podcast. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at n.W.bro podcast. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/n.w.bro podcast. You can send us questions to our email at nwbropodcast@gmail.com. If we start getting enough of these questions, or hell, any questions at all, we'll open up a Q&A segment at the end of our show. We'll answer your guys' questions. We want to interact with you guys and have you guys be as much of a part of a show as possible. And, we want to make friends. We want to meet you guys. We want to interact with you guys. We want this to be a big community and talk to other wrestling fans out there and answer their questions and maybe meet up when we do public appearances and things like that. So send us questions. Hook up with us at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I just started an Instagram, which I haven't posted anything to, but the username is, you guessed it, n.w.bro podcast. So pretty much everything you can think of. Our username is going to be n.w.bro podcast. So check us out there. If you downloaded this episode via MP3, thank you for downloading it, checking it out. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this week, guys. Thank you for joining me on this solo podcast. It's not so much the n.w.bro show this week, since my bro is not here with me, but next week everything should resume back to normal. So this is Rhett. This has been the n.w.bro podcast, and until next time, we'll see you later.